tamogun. And if I have no response,
I've only got my reading glasses on, so you're all a long way away. So if everyone would like to come and sit a little bit closer. That's okay, I'm vegetarian, I don't bite. Okay. So this is the So I'd like to thank all of you for coming. I really appreciate you taking the time out. What we want to talk about today is the importance of education in deity worship. I travel a lot around ISKCON, as you can probably and visit lots of temples. And I do see quite a number of inconsistencies in the worship, and also get asked lots of questions about deity worship, and sometimes devotees say, oh, I went to this course here, and this devotee said this, and this devotee said that. And it seems to be at odds with some of the things that Srila Prabhupada taught. So one of the things the ministry is trying to work on is to standardize what's being taught in ISKCON. All right, so let's just go through this. So we're going to talk about the importance of education in deity worship. And when I was a new devotee, I was in Melbourne, Australia, and these are the main deities, Radha Vallabha, very, very beautiful deities installed by Srila Prabhupada in 1975, in May 1975. And it was quite an interesting experience for me the first time I went on the altar. I was just, I just got Brahman that day, literally, and the devotees, the head Pujari asked me to go and do the arati. I had no idea what I was doing. And sort of like as soon as he asked me to do the arati, it was kind of interesting because I felt really exhilarated because I had the opportunity to go on the altar, but I was terrified. I'm going to go on the altar with God on my own. I had no experience or anything like that, so it was quite an experience. And you'll see oftentimes this is what happens. Here we see a young devotee, he's just being asked to go on the altar, and immediately confusion, fear, he's just like, oh no, I remember going to one temple a few years ago, and there was a whole bunch of devotees there who were doing deity worship, but they weren't Brahmins. And so I asked a few of them why. They said, because we're worried about committing offenses. And this is one of the things that often happens is devotees, because they don't understand the process of deity worship, then this element of fear comes in, and they're really terrified about committing offenses, and it's quite a quite a prominent thing that actually happens. So this is quite a big thing. Now we see with Srila Prabhupada, and this is like we're obviously taking our lead from Srila Prabhupada. He himself was the consummate teacher. He was teaching all the time. And from our perspective, he's the perfect acharya, because what acharya means one who teaches by example, yeah? And Srila Prabhupada was always teaching. Everything he did, he was teaching. You see here, he's teaching Dwarkadish how to write. And then also we have another slide here where he's teaching Jamuna how to worship the deities. He taught Jamuna how to worship the deities. He taught Shilavati how to worship the deities. He also taught Janani Prabhu how to worship the deities. So we see that Prabhupada himself taught his disciples constantly. He taught them how to manage, how to publish books, how to do everything necessary to become a devotee of Krishna. And he even gave us the final lesson of how to leave the body. So everything he taught us from beginning to finish. So Srila Prabhupada was the perfect teacher in Krishna consciousness. What's our next one? Oh, okay, this is interesting. So I wanted to look a little bit about what is the purpose of education. Now, you'll see here this nice slide sort of evolving from a caterpillar through to the stage where they go inside the cocoon, and then from the cocoon they develop and come out to a beautiful butterfly. And this is really, I thought this is kind of an interesting picture to demonstrate what education's meant for. Anyone can figure what this means in relation to education? I'm going to ask you a few questions, so you know. But what's happening here from the stage of the caterpillar to the butterfly? Huh? Transformation. Very good, very good. This is what education's about, is transformation. If we're not transforming, and ultimately our character, if we're not transforming our character, the education's not working. As simple as that. And of course with education, there's different elements of education. This is a somewhat simplistic description. Education focuses on knowledge, skills, and values. With knowledge and skills, if you take up the knowledge element, and basically when we went to school, we kind of did the knowledge component. They just fill you full of, they just do information dump on you, and you're meant to regurgitate that information. But it doesn't really go much beyond that. And so there's the knowledge component, which has several sub-components to it, but also there's the skills component. And obviously in deity worship, it's much about skills. But also the most important component of education is the values component. And without the values component, we find that there's no real change comes about. And this is one of the big problems with the modern education system, is it really focuses on knowledge and skills, but nothing on values. And the reason that's there, at least in my understanding of it, is because it's too difficult. They don't want to try to teach you values because they don't know how to teach it. Well, first off, they don't know what values they should be teaching. They don't know how to teach it, and they don't know how to assess it. And that's the big challenge with values, is how do you assess that someone's taken up the values? Because you see, it's like any element of devotional service, excuse me, any element of devotional service, we can put on a show for some time. We can go to the morning program, we can dance in kirtan, we can do all these sorts of things. But to actually imbibe these things and for it to become part of our existence takes a fair amount of training. Now, I wanted to play you this nice quote from Srila Prabhupada. This is a lecture that was recorded here in 1976. I'll tell a little bit of a background first. Srila Prabhupada was out on a morning walk. And you know where the Samadhi is now? Right, it's over there. Yeah. There was a ring road there. And on the Ganga side of the ring road, there were some workers' cottages and there was a row of toilets. And what happened was Srila Prabhupada, he's out on his morning walk, and Srila Prabhupada just had this sense where he could understand if something wasn't right. And he saw the doorway there and he said, oh, what is this? And he pushed the door open with his cane. And there was a row of, I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 toilets there, just workers' toilets. Most of the workers, that were here, at least at that time, they actually came from a village environment. So, having a toilet was kind of an unusual thing for them. They just pass out in the field. So these toilets were actually overflowing. The stool and urine just flowing out the toilets. And Srila Prabhupada, when he saw that, he just really got upset. I mean, seriously upset. and can I just, do you mind if I take those tissues? Thank you. And so what happened is Srila Prabhupada started to berate his managers. And just at that point, Achyutananda Swami, who was one of the managers here with Jayapataka Maharaj, arrived back from Calcutta. He got out of the car, he paid his obeisance to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada just turned on him. And he said, this is the mode of ignorance, and because you're in the mode of ignorance, you do nothing. He was so upset. And then in the morning Bhagavatam class, he gave this lecture. So we'll play this for you now. And listen to this carefully, because Prabhupada's talking about transformation.
Just like I was rebuking that toilet, this is so nasty, tamagun. And if I have no response to such tamagun place, that means I am also of that quality. Just like fire and fire, there is no reaction. But in fire and water, there is reaction. Between fire and fire there is no reaction. But fire and water there is reaction. Similarly, Satagun, there is no reaction. Tamagun, there is no reaction. It is, in English it is called incompatible. When different qualities, there is reaction, chemical reaction, acid and alkali. Acid and acid you mix, there is no reaction. But acid and alkali, if you mix, there will be effervescence. The karanam guna sangayasa sadasat janma jonishu. If one is developing tamogun, then if he becomes a pig next life, there is no reaction. He will be very glad that I am pig, I am dog. There is no reaction. But if one is Satagun, then he cannot tolerate. Immediately obnoxious, such a nasty condition. I am very sorry, there was no reaction in such nasty toilet room. And you are getting sacred thread, the quality of Brahmana, Satagun. It is very regrettable. Nobody reacted. So, this is the position. There, unless we tato rajastamo bhava kamalo bhadayasthate cheta etai anavidya sthite satte prasidati. We have to cut down this rajagun, tamagun, otherwise there is no improvement. If a person in Krishna consciousness is found, no reaction in rajagun, tamagun, then he is a dull stone, it is not improving. It is simply show bottle. The show bottle will not help. Tato rajastamo bhava, this prescription is there. If one develops Krishna consciousness, then it is to be understood that he has surpassed Satagun, the Brahminical qualification. Why we offer sacred thread to a person who is coming from very, very low family? Because it is to be understood by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, by following the regulative principle, he has already come to the platform of Satagun. But if it is a false thing, there is no need of second initiation. There must be, one must come. Our process is, don't do this, do this. Chant Hare Krishna mantra 16 down, and don't do this, no illicit sex, no meat eating. That means he is becoming purified. He is becoming purified from the rotten condition of Rajagun and Tamagun. But if he does not, then there should be no second initiation. This should be the rule.
So this wonderful lecture that Srila Prabhupada gave here in Mayapur, where he's really clearly explaining if there's no transformation in our character, then we're just like dull stone. It's a show bottle. We're not actually applying ourselves properly to the process of devotional service. And this is what education's about. It's about transforming the character. Right? And there's a really interesting verse in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam where I think you all know the story very well, where Krishna comes upon the cowherd men, and they're going to perform an Indra Yagya. And then Krishna, being the supreme logician, he starts to quiz Nanda Maharaj. Why are you doing this? What do you hope to gain from this? And Nanda Maharaj can't explain it to Krishna properly. Where does this come from? Oh, it's just some tradition. And so Krishna says to him, when people in this world perform activities, sometimes they understand what they're doing, and sometimes they don't. Those who don't know what they're doing, those who know what they're doing achieve success in their work, whereas ignorant people do not. So it's the same in any activity we perform in our Krishna consciousness. Of course, because it's a spiritual activity, there's going to be some benefit. But if we know what we're doing, we'll actually get much more benefit. Now, I wanted to just give you a few simple examples. Now, one we have here of, where's the tilak one? That's not there. Oh, that's later. Okay. Arati. All right, this is a commonly misunderstood thing, what the arati is. Yeah? And, yeah, it's interesting. So, yeah, next slide. So these are the different items in the arati. There's a nice drawing here. You just want to expand them. You'll see we've got the chamra, the flower on the plate, water in a conch, cloth, the lamp, incense, bell, and a conch. So we just want to pick on two of these items. And I'm going to ask you what you think these things represent. We're going to look at the water in the conch and the cloth. So what's the first one we've got there? Okay, so water in the conch. What's that about? Any ideas? Yeah. Huh? Many things. Can you name one? Huh? Money. Mind. The water in the conch. Okay, mind. Anything else?
So,
Argya. Okay. Anything else? Sitaram Prabhu.
It's one of the 5 items like earth, water, fire, either. So
Yeah.
that's water is, so we're offering everything to the Lord. So the fire, water in the conch is representing
Okay,
that.
so one of the 5 elements. Anything else? No other ideas? I was at Guru Puja the other day, and you know how they put the water, they put a flower in the water. And so there was a very senior devotee came up to me, and he took the flower and he was sprinkling the water on my head. He said, "This is Prabhupada's bathing water." Yeah? And it's kind of like an interesting concept, because here we see Srila Prabhupada sitting on his Vyasasan with his clothes on his Vyasasan. Is he going to bathe in such a situation? What do you think? Would Prabhupada be bathing sitting there on the Vyasasan? No, you go to the bathroom to do that, or you go down the Ganga or whatever. But you don't, you know. And the same when we're offering arati to Krishna. You know, they offer the water in the conch, and they're bathing the deities. They're dressed in all their fineries and garlands, and you know. It's not, you know, the bathing happens during the morning puja. Yeah. And according to and naturally you would think if that's bathing water, then the cloth would be for what? For drying. Yeah. But actually, this is not the case. There's a few interesting references that I can think of. It's in the Krishna book. I can't remember the exact chapter. But when Balaram returns to Dwarka after he'd been traveling for a while, then they called for the brahmanas to come and greet him, and then the brahmanas were offering him argya water, and Prabhupada, because argya is a water used for receiving someone, when a distinguished guest comes. There's even in the Kartik Mahatmya, there's a description of how they received Narad Muni one time, and they sprinkled this argya water on his head. And argya is considered in a cultured society to be the best way of receiving a person. And argya generally it'll be pure water with different types of auspicious things in it. You might put durva grass in it, various cracked like barley and sesame and things like that. So it's a very, very important way of receiving a distinguished guest. But when Balaram comes back into Dwarka, they call for the brahmanas to bring the argya water, and Prabhupada says argya, and then in parentheses he says arti water. So he's making the connection between the argya and the arti. Yeah? So this water in the conch, it represents the receiving a guest. And then the cloth, as far as Bhanu Swami's research was able to understand, this represents, it's just like has anyone ever been to like a really high-class function here in India? You know, where they'll have guests coming. Like, I remember one time I was in Jaipur for Vasant Panchami, and the king of Jaipur was there, and a few other distinguished guests. And then the Brahmins, they came and they offered them the gift of cloth, which is quite a standard thing here in India. So it's a way of receiving an honoured guest. Yeah, and there's a nice quote I want to play to you also from Prabhupada to give you a concept of what the arati is all about.
Arati means the arati reception, Koran, doing Brahma, Lord Brahma, Adi, headed by Devogane, all the demigods. That means to offer arati reception to Lord Chaitanya, all the demigods have come down, headed by Lord Brahma. Arati Karena Brahma Adi Devo Gani.
So you can see, if we try to understand the instructions of our acharyas, we start to understand what the process is about. Now I've got a few interesting references here from Bhagavatam 1:18-28. Argya, this is the synonyms, water for reception. Kartik Mahatmya, footnote, page 53, literally a valuable offering, generally symbolized by offering pure water mixed with auspicious ingredients. And chapter 68 of the Krishna book, the marriage of Samba. It wasn't when Balaram came back to Dwarka, it was another time. According to respective positions, they welcomed Lord Balaram by giving him in charity nice cows and argya, a mixture of arti water and assortment of items such as honey, butter, flowers, and sandalwood pulp. So you see, Prabhupada's describing what argya is. There's no need for us to speculate. And then also here from the Hari Bhakti Vilas, O best of sages, thus one should begin by offering argya to Lord Krishna and Devaki, argya that brings the fulfillment of all desires. So it's actually considered a very, very high-class item of reception. And as we can see here, Prabhupada, he's explaining that the arti means to receive somebody. That's what it's about. Yeah?
Jayo Jayo Gora Chander Arati Ki Shobha. This is the first line of offering Sandharatri. Aratrik means to receive the Lord with so many offerings. First with incense, then with blazing light of camphor, then candles, then offering water in concert, then offering a handkerchief, then a flower, then fanning, and at the end blowing the corn shell 3 times. Each item except the corn shell has to be a circle 7 times, beginning from the feet, lotus feet of the Lord, then on the abdomen, then on the chest, then on the face. In this way, 7 times each item has to be circled round. This is the process. So, the aratrik is going on and the devotees are singing that all glory to Lord Chaitanya, Gorachand. Gorachand is another name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here it is said, Jaya Jaya Gorachandir Arati Ki Shobha. That beautiful aratic ceremony is being performed to receive the Lord Chaitanya. And where it is being performed? On the bank of the Ganges. Because Lord Chaitanya's house was on the bank of the Ganges, Mayapur. So everyone is seeing the Aratri and they are saying that Jannavi Tatavane, on the bank of the Ganges, this Aratrik is going on and it is so enchanting that it is attracting the mind of the whole world. Jagajana Lobha. Lobha means attract. And Jagajana means all persons of the world. That means Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his activities, because he being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his activities are attractive for everyone, without an exception. Jagajana Lobha. Then, on the right side of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Dakkhine Nitaicha. Dakkhine means on the right side. And Vame Gadadhar. Gadadhar is on the left side. And Advaita is nearby and Shiva is just by the side of Gadadhar, is offering chamar. The chamar is the bunch of hair, fanning. Then all the demigods, they have come to see the nice Aratrik offered to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Brahma has come, Narad has come, Lord Shiva has come to see how nice the Aratrik is. And there is a nice garland on the neck of Lord Chaitanya, especially. So, when devotees are offering arati, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is feeling very satisfied and is moving little bit, here, this side, that side, and the garland is also moving. So, it is so nice to see and nice to enjoy, but this enjoyment can be perceived by such person who has surrendered unto the soul, unto the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. Others cannot see the beauty. So, this is the opulence of Lord Chaitanya, and the opulence of Lord Chaitanya can be understood by a person who has surrendered everything unto the Lord.
Okay, so we see that Prabhupada very clearly explaining what arti is. Arti can also mean nirajana or dristi, which means waving auspicious items in front of a person in order to dispel inauspicious influences or elements as a means of protection. And usually the various items represent material elements in their pure form. That's also another understanding. But we see from that explanation, Prabhupada is very clearly talking about how the arti is receiving a distinguished person. You have a microphone over there?
Prabhu, here, Srila Prabhupada is saying we should circle each item 7 times there. But normally we have also told like different items, like 4, 2, 3, 7. So what's the right one? How do you understand?
Prabhupada said different things in different places. I mean, the main point here is not so much the circles, which is a detail.
Yeah.
The main point here is about what the arti means, that we're receiving someone. I mean, I've heard quite a number of different explanations that Prabhupada gave in terms of how to offer the arti. Even in one place, I think it was in Los Angeles actually, Prabhupada said to offer the item 7 circles to 7 places going up on the left side of the body, and 7 circles to 7 places going down the right side of the body. So that's actually 98 circles for each article. You have to go really fast. Yeah. But obviously they don't do that anymore, but that's what I heard for a devotee who was a pujari at the time, in the early days. Yes, Maharaj?
So, but do you have any, do you have any standard thing which we want to adopt?
Sorry?
Do you have any standard procedure which you want to adopt in the process?
There is a book called Mantra Upasana Puja Vidi by Rupa Goswami, which does mention the circles we use. Yeah? So it seems to be what it's been commonly in ISKCON for quite a number of years. So. But Prabhupada did say different things in different places. So he even told Jamuna, when you're offering the item to the deities, you start from Radharani's lotus feet, and you come round and you offer the item to Krishna. So different places he said different things, but these are details. What we're trying to focus here on is the principles, of what the arti means, what we're actually doing there. Yes, Maharaj?
So we are 30, 40 years in the mission. I thought arti means worship. We worship the Lord like Sayan Arti, Mangal Arti, Sringar Arti. What is difference between reception and worship? See, reception and worship. Generally, as Indians, arti means worshipping the Lord.
Receiving is also an element of worship. You receive a guest, some distinguished guest. It's just like in the country I was brought up in. Someone comes to your house, especially someone who you don't know. The immediate response is, "What do you want? Why are you here?" But that's not this culture. This culture, Atiti Seva, the Atiti comes to your house, you worship them, you respect them. So you receive the person, you might bathe their feet, you might sprinkle arghya on their head, offer them water for rinsing the mouth, offer them a seat. This is all part of worship, the receiving a guest. And when we do what is called Sarasvachar Puja, in the morning, the worship of the 16 items, it has 4 basic categories. The first is reception, which starts off with asan, swagat, padya, arghya, achman, marupak, punachman. This means you offer a sitting place, which also can involve offering shoes and the different things. Then you receive the guest. And in different circumstances, that's going to be different things. It could be kirtan, waving chamras, all sorts of things can be there. Usually, at least it should mean sweet words. Just like that, the story of the cobbler and the brahmana, where Narad Muni was going to those different personalities. When he went to the cobbler, he didn't have anything to offer Narad Muni, but he offered him sweet words. So that's also a way of receiving a guest. And then padya, water for washing the feet, arghya, water for reception. Then achman, to rinse the mouth, marupak, which is considered a very auspicious type of food, then rinsing the mouth again. Then after that you do bathing and dressing. Then after that is the worship, which will mean gandha, pushpa, dupa, deepa, naivedya, then pranam. So receiving is also part of worship. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next part. So we see here Srila Prabhupada putting on tilak. This is another common misunderstanding in ISKCON. How many places do we put tilak on our body? Huh? 12? Any other guesses on that? Huh? 12? Is it 12 or is it 13? Because sometimes you'll see devotees, Keshvaya, Narayana, Madhavaya, Govinda, Vishnava, Madhusudana, like that back. And then here. They also put tilak here. This is a misunderstanding. In Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his commentary on the 15th chapter of the Adi Khand of the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Oh, this is actually from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Oh, okay, this one here, yeah. Oh, we'll do this one first. So this is from the Madhya Lila, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is describing the process of pure devotional service to Sanatana Goswami. And he says here, when putting tilak, the 12 marks on the 12 places of the body, one has to chant the mantra consisting of these 12 Vishnu names. So the names of the prominent months. And then in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, we see that in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary, he adds this mantra, or this line to the mantra. It's slightly different from the one we chant, because the one we say is Tat Prakshane Toyam Tu Vasudeveti Murdani. So it's slightly different, but it's the same thing. It says the same thing, which basically means that once you finish applying tilak to your body, you wash your hands. Then after washing your hands, you wipe the water on your sika. Yeah? So that's a common, it's quite common you'll see devotees put tilak there. But what happens, I've seen, is if you don't have very strong hair, you start to go bald in that spot where you wipe the tilak. But also you'll see sometimes, because there's also another statement in Shastra that the tilak only goes up to the hairline. Because same thing happens if you go up here, you go further. I've seen devotees who've got a little sort of bump in their hair like that, where they've gone bald from putting the tilak on. So Krishna consciousness is very practical. Very, very practical. So we see the acharyas have explained to us these different things. Right. Okay, so yeah, this is Jamuna Mataji, very, very extraordinary devotee. I was actually thinking to put a picture of a stapler there. One time Prabhupada was staying in Vrindavan at the Radha Damodar temple. Jamuna told me this story personally. And she was cleaning Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada would go out on his morning walk, and then while he was out on the morning walk, she would clean the rooms. And at that time, there was a lot of dust storms in Vrindavan. And so she would, clean everything very, very thoroughly, wipe the desk down, wipe all the pens down, wipe the staple down, put them back exactly where Prabhupada had put them. So everything was perfect. Prabhupada came back from his morning walk. He sat down behind his desk, and he was, doing things for a little while. And then he said, Jamuna, yes, Swamiji, when will you ever learn? And she had no idea what Prabhupada was talking about. She says, I don't understand, Swamiji, what do you mean? He said, when will you ever learn? I don't understand, what do you mean? He said, when will you ever learn to clean? And Jamuna was thinking that she'd cleaned everything perfectly. And then Prabhupada, this to give you an idea of what Prabhupada meant when he said cleanliness, Srila Prabhupada opened up the stapler and he wiped his finger inside and said, see, dust. So Prabhupada wanted to see that everything was spotlessly clean. He wanted the temple to be shiny like a new pin. One very, very distinguished Vaishnava, Sridhar Maharaj, I don't know if anyone's ever been to his rooms in Budapest. Everything's made of glass. The desk is made of glass, the stairs are made of glass, the stair rails are made of glass, all the side walls and stuff, all made of glass. Now, what's the feature of glass? If there's a fingerprint on it, you touch it with your finger, you'll see it. So it means that everything has to be spotlessly clean, otherwise it becomes very, very obvious that it's not clean. Yeah? So, and there's many, many examples. We refer back to the reference about the nasty toilet here in Mayapur. So many different things that Prabhupada emphasized in terms of cleanliness. And as I mentioned, traveling around a lot in ISKCON, most of the temples I go to, you see they worship the deities very beautifully, they dress them very beautifully, the bog offerings are amazing, but the cleanliness is generally a challenge. Most temples I see are not up to standard on the cleanliness. And this is, especially in Kali Yuga, it's very challenging. But it's the thing that Prabhupada emphasized the most in deity worship. He emphasized two things. He emphasized cleanliness and punctuality. And he generally said cleanliness first. And in Vedic texts, there's a rule of order. The thing that's quoted first is usually the most important. So he would generally quote this cleanliness first. So we actually understand this to be the most important element of deity worship. And it's the thing we try to emphasize the most in our trainings, is try to encourage devotees to be very, very clean. Yeah? So, as I mentioned, I do travel a fair bit, and we do courses around the world. Of course, we have our school here, Mayapur Academy, and we run courses year round. We have an international diploma which is just finished, which starts end of Kartik and runs through till Nityananda Trayodasi. And then I've done courses in Radhadesh, in London, in Australia, in Malaysia, in USA. I've done courses in New Vrindavan, New York, Naperville. And we're always willing to do courses in other parts of the world. All we need is sufficient devotees to participate. But the main point we're trying to emphasize here is if we don't have training and proper training that's based on the instructions of our founder Acharya, we don't really understand what we're actually supposed to be doing. And the idea ultimately behind deity worship is to please Krishna. And the best way to please Krishna is to follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. If we're able to follow the instructions of our founder Acharya, that is our guaranteed way to success. Yeah? So anyhow, I'll just leave you with that thought. Any other questions at all, comments?
The training programs you mentioned are available online for the existing pujaris?
We have some that we do online, especially here in India. Our school here, they do regular online programs. You can go to their website, mayapuracademy.org.
No, but I'm from America, so I'm from America, so we have
Whereabouts in the US?
Yeah, in the US. Yeah.
Where?
In Seattle. Seattle.
Seattle?
Yeah.
Okay, we haven't got across to Seattle yet, but there's a good chance we will. Either Seattle or Vancouver, one of the two, yeah. But we're working on getting it to an online. But see, one of the problems is for an online course is at least with the temple deity worship, with online it's really about knowledge. But deity worship is very much about skills and values as well. And the knowledge, it's like, even with the skills, you could teach a monkey how to offer arati. Really, you could do it. They even have machines here in India that offer arati. But that's the real essence of what we're trying to get across, the values associated with it. So yes, we do have online courses in development right now, especially for the temple deity worship. But it would be a blended approach, so we'd have online component and then we could go on site because. And even because part of like we did a 10-day course in Naperville just recently in Illinois, I think it is. And so the major part of the course is the assessment, doing the Sodapachar Puja, where the devotees sit down and they do the full Sodapachar Puja, start to finish without a book. They just do it all from memory, which is pretty amazing when you consider it, is most of those devotees when they start have never done it before. And in 10 days, they sit down, they're able to do the assessment. Most of them do really well. So the methods work, but it would have to be a blended approach for the temple worship. Home deity worship is a different thing. We can do that, easily online. And we're almost completed writing or putting together a home deity worship course.
Yeah, so the Naperville example is good, but sending our 10 pujaris or 15 pujaris for 10 days to Naperville kind of thing is difficult. So with an existing location, what is the minimum number of pujaris you need?
Do you know Rasa Dasi?
Yeah, and I know her.
So just speak with her. If you can come up with at least 20 devotees, then we'll come there and do a course. But we need at least 20 to make it worthwhile because flying from Australia to the USA is very expensive. So, and also Murli Manohar will come from England. So, there's high initial costs but we have a standard fee and that's all you have to pay. Obviously accommodate the teachers, feed us all, and then that's it. But at least 20 devotees and we can go ahead. Anything else? Sorry?
How much is the standard fee? The standard fee for the course?
Well, when we do it in the USA, it's $351. When we do it in Europe, it's cheaper because we don't have to pay for Murli to fly places.
So then for Europe?
Europe, I think it was 250 euros. Because, Murli lives in London. So, if he's got to fly to the USA, it's another $1,500. So we just calculate based on the costs, add up the costs, and that's the fee.
Just to cover the cost?
Yeah, it just covers the cost. We don't make profit out of it. That's not what it's about. The main thing is about educating devotees.
I have to tell my authorities how much it is. So.
Yeah, no problems. Anything else? Yes, Prabhu. Down the front here.
Hare Krishna. So, in the previous lecture, Srila Prabhupada was talking about Arti can be enjoyed by one who has surrendered everything to the Lord. Right. So is it about the person who's doing the arti or the people who are there, like the person who's singing, or everybody?
I don't know. I just think it's an inspiration for us. If we can become completely surrendered to the Lord, then we'll really enjoy seeing the Lord being glorified and worshipped like that. Yeah. I mean, oftentimes you'll see that Prabhupada is talking about the highest principles of bhakti. And sometimes you'll see he talks about very basic things and he talks about very high principles of bhakti. So it's just inspirational for us all to know that when we purify our hearts, we'll really get a lot of satisfaction from this process. Yeah.
So when we're reciting this mantra, we say Esha Pushpanjali. If somebody wants to say, here are the flowers in English, here are the flowers of I'm offering flowers to you in English.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Prabhupada told Janani Vasprabhu that you don't need to chant the mantras, you can say it in your local language, in English for instance. So, I mean, of course, we do encourage devotees to try to learn the mantras, but some people just struggle with mantras. So why push them to do something they just can't do? Rather encourage them. It's just like in deity worship, especially when you're doing the Sodhis Puja Puja. Say, for instance, with Lord Chaitanya. You start off with, you have preliminary worship, then you have the main worship, the Bahya Puja. So in the preliminary worship, you start off with the worship of the Guru, the worship of Prabhupada, then you do the preliminary worship for Lord Chaitanya. So in the worship of Guru, first off you're remembering the Dham, where the Lord's situated, where the Guru is situated. And then you remember the form of the Guru. And then you do the same for Prabhupada. And then you do the same for Lord Chaitanya. You remember the Navadvip Dham, and then you remember Lord Chaitanya's form. Now these are all Sanskrit mantras or Bengali mantras. But if you struggle with that, and you can't, you chant the mantra but you don't know what it means, it's not really having the desired effect, because the desired effect is you're bringing, just like, in chapter 10 of the Nectar of Devotion, it talks about that story of the Brahma and the sweet rice. So the idea is you're bringing the Dham into your consciousness, then you're bringing the person you're worshipping into your consciousness, and then you're worshipping that person in your mind. So if chanting the mantra in a language you understand enables you to fix that consciousness more securely in your mind, then do that. Don't worry about Sanskrit and just do. The whole idea is to become completely absorbed in Krishna. So if chanting a Sanskrit mantra stresses you out, don't bother. Just do it in whatever language you know. Yeah? Yes, Rob.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for a wonderful presentation. One is doubt that you explained from the slide Prabhupada's quotes that say about the same reactions, chemical reactions. Like you explained about the chemical reactions. If it is the same matters, like water, there will be no chemical reactions.
Yeah.
In that regards, you explained about if the tamoguna and tamaguna, there will be no reactions. But it's saptaguna, then tamaguna, then it will be reactions.
He said sattva-gun, no reaction.
But it is if sattaguna and tamaguna.
Yes,
then it will be
strong reaction.
Sattaguna and tamaguna, it will be reactions.
Yeah.
So my question is, if a devotee is practicing devotional service, so he is in the sattagunas? Yes?
Not necessarily.
But practically, if he is is following the Brahmanical qualities.
Not necessarily. You can judge the thing by the qualities. You can see. It's just like the examples that Prabhupada used. If, for instance, someone's in the mode of goodness and they go into a mode of ignorance place, like a butcher's shop, very unpalatable. But if someone's in the mode of passion or in the mode of ignorance and they go into a place that's in the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance, they feel comfortable there. But if they go, and you probably know that story of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples when they went to Burma and they were cooking with ghee.
Yes.
And all the people in the village were complaining about the smell of the ghee. They said it was really horrible. Because they're influenced by the lower modes of nature. So when they're cooking with something that's in a higher mode, they found it detestable. So we can see, it's not just, because I practice the path of devotional service, therefore I'm automatically in the mode of goodness. No, you judge the thing by what's the term? You judge the thing by the quality. You can see the quality of something by how they respond to different circumstances. If someone's in the mode of goodness, you can judge that by, like we used to do an exercise at the school over here. Before that, we'd do a class on cleanliness. And so before the class, I would go into the classroom and turn everything upside down. Put books on the floor, not spiritual books, but just like textbooks, like stuff like that on the floor. Turn the chairs upside down, push the tables over, and walk out. Sometimes I'd come in and they'd put it all back together. Sometimes I'd come in, someone's sitting in the chair and all the tables and stuff are pushed over. So by acts like that, you can see a person's nature. If they're okay to sit in a place that's turned upside down, you can understand. Either they're completely transcendental and it doesn't matter, or they're influenced by that mode of nature. So you can judge something by its quality. And that's the point that Prabhupada makes in that reference.
And to adding to that, the suppose a devotee is very sincere performing all the service and is doing all type of devotional practice and following the instructions of devotees, but somehow or others he is having inclined toward the sense gratifications. So that is considered to be mood of ignorance, that is tamaguna, rajagunas. But whatever the activities he is doing, very sincerely he is doing, that is sattvagunas. Now he is doing all activities, following the rules and regulations, very humble in external perspectives, but sometimes its mind is dragged towards the sense gratifications. Now, what kind of nature will understand that he's in?
Yeah, I would say such a nature is mixed. They're not completely purely engaged in devotional service, and they're still influenced by lower modes. And you see it quite commonly, how devotees are influenced by lower modes. So the idea is through the practice of bhakti to come to this point of sagunan samititaitan. So we're not influenced by the modes of material nature. Because as long as we're influenced by the modes of material nature, that'll affect our practice of bhakti. Yeah? Okay, Sriman Aniruddha Prabhu's arrived. I think he's going to kick me out. Thank you very much for your time. It's really...
Think of it.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.